What's up, members of the barrio? It's John coming to you from the West Village of Manhattan. And about 1 year ago, right after I came back from Mexico, I made a video on the channel about New York City safety tips. And I honestly didn't think anybody would care about it. But it turns out you guys did care, as it got almost 100,000 views. So today, I'm gonna be updating that video just a little bit, also putting a card up above somewhere here. And we're gonna try to answer that question again. Is New York City a safe place for tourists to visit? Let's go for a walk. I find that most visitors to New York tend to fall into one of two categories. Either A, they're visiting from a country that has a high crime rate in big cities, and when they're here, they're extremely relaxed because in comparison to many world cities, New York is extremely safe. And then they fall into the second camp, and a lot of these people come from smaller parts of the United States where crime isn't such a big thing, and they're very much on edge and paranoid about many things in New York. I think the truth honestly falls somewhere in the middle. As a resident, in my experiences living in New York for almost a decade, I would say there's two places I see the most mischief and potential for crime occurring. The first is the subway. Now, I don't know what it is about the subway, maybe because it's underground in many cases, maybe because there's not a ton of police always roaming around there, but your odds of seeing something weird going on tend to go up when you enter the subway. One point I made in my first video, which I'm going to stick to, and I would tell this to any friend of mine who's female, especially if you've never visited New York City before, I would avoid riding the subway by yourself after midnight because there's less trains running, there's less people around, and also at those hours you tend to see more inebriated people, intoxicated people on drugs, drunk, whatever it may be. If you do have to ride the subway by yourself late at night and you're a solo female, I would recommend riding in the car that has the conductor in it already. That way, if something happens, you can quickly run over to him and he'll handle the situation. Number two would be nightlife. As someone who used to go out quite a bit, not so much anymore, I'm married, doesn't appeal to me as much. I would say that a lot of the nightlife zones of New York tend to have a little bit of a crime, petty mischief situation going on. For example, what happened in this clip. My good friend Steve actually filmed that clip right there. That was a drunk passenger responding to a cab driver who said that he didn't pay his fare properly. Did he deserve to smash his window like that? I don't think so. But keep this in mind, when people are drunk, late at night, normally nice folks who are law-abiding citizens could get a little bit crazy. Their demons could come out, and I've seen all sorts of crazy things like that occur at night. Maybe not people smashing windows, but I've seen street fights. I've seen people looking for fights before. People are really angry about something after a long night out with their friends. Maybe they argued with people. You know, use common sense in those situations, and especially for my young female viewers, especially at the nightclubs. I have personally heard a few stories about girls who were drugged, who had something put in their drink. So always be aware of where your drinks are, and I'm really emphasizing nightclubs in this situation. Granted, it could happen at a bar, but it was always a nightclub where I was told that they think that their drink got spiked. Another great tip that I have that my friend Evan gave me, who was a native New Yorker, he was actually in my Harlem video, one of my good friends, he said, if you see something going on that doesn't involve you, if you see people arguing, if you see any kind of a situation escalating, don't make eye contact, don't get involved unless you absolutely have to. I think having a mentality of minding your own business in New York is very good. Now, granted, if you see a crime occurring, call the police, feel free to step in. But if you're walking down the street and you see two people arguing or getting aggressive with each other, I don't think standing around them, crowding there, filming it, or watching them is going to be a good thing for you. If I see trouble in New York, I'm crossing the street. I am not staying on the same side of the street as people who are fighting, as people who who are just doing stupid things. You really have to be aware of your surroundings here. And while the crime rate is low and New York City is nothing, I mean nothing like it was in the 1970s and 1980s, where it just gained this terrible reputation for crime and drugs, crime still does occur here. And if you're not aware, if you're always in your own world, if you're always listening to music and not paying attention to things, you could be a victim. You absolutely could be a victim of a crime here. One other thing, and this is something that's pretty rampant in New York, is just petty theft. You know, if you're going to the bathroom, if you're at a cafe, don't leave your iPhone on the table. Don't leave your phone on the bar ever. Don't give people the opportunity to steal your camera. You know, you're probably not going to get mugged. I haven't heard too many stories of people having their cameras ripped, you know, from their hands right as they're taking photos in Times Square. That sort of thing is possible, but it's very rare. So I would say don't leave your stuff unattended, most importantly, and be very aware when you're entering the subway. Another piece of advice I would give for you if you're in some kind of trouble is don't be afraid to make a lot of noise. There are always people around New York. That's one of my favorite things about even walking around late at night. You can almost always find somebody, especially in Manhattan, roaming about. So if you're in some kind of an altercation and you feel like there's no way out, don't be afraid to scream or make noise or say something to bring other bystanders nearby to see what's going on. It could really help you out in certain situations. Just something to keep in mind. I didn't want to make this video too long because I didn't have a ton more to add to this topic that I didn't say in my first video, but I do want to ask my New York audience, because I know there's a lot of you out there. These videos aren't just being watched by tourists. I know I have a nice New York audience as well. Do you guys have any tips that I missed? What advice would you give people coming to New York for the first time? Please tell me in the comments, share it with the audience here, because I think it could help everybody out, and I think that just with a lot of common sense precautions, you could have a very good trip here. I'm not trying to scare anybody from visiting New York, and I keep wanting to say that this is an extremely safe big city. The police department in general does a very, very good job here. So just stay on your guard, and odds are you're going to be just fine and you're going to have a great trip. Make sure to check out my other New York City tips videos, all in my playlist, linked right here, and make sure to subscribe if you're new for more adventures from New York City and around the world. I hope this short video helped you guys out just a little bit. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Until next time.